In this video, I'm going to reveal the 3 levels of music production, and at the end, I'm going to show you how they all work together to create great sounding music. Now, just like a video game, you can't skip a level. You have to do each one of these in order, or else you're going to get humbled. Level 1, writing good songs. Songwriting is king. Everything stems down from the song. People don't want to listen to your production, they don't want to listen to your mix, they want to listen to your song. And as a music producer, it's your job to make sure that you're also writing great melodies, making great arrangements, and having great lyrics. Everything stems down to the song. If the song isn't great, no amount of production is ever going to save that. So spend most of your time making great music. Listen to these piano chords here. That already sounds beautiful by itself, and there's nothing else besides the piano. Your brain has probably already gone off on multiple different directions that this song could go. It's very inspiring, and it's easy to produce something that sounds great at the beginning. So here's a few tips for writing great sounding music. Tip 1, the rhythm of the melody is almost more important than the notes themselves. What really makes a song catchy and what makes a melody memorable is the repetitiveness of it and the syncopation it has with the music. Listen to some of your favorite songs and listen to how the melody actually has a syncopation and rhythm to it. And you'll notice that that becomes almost more catchy than the actual notes that the melody's using itself. And now tip 2 is to use the rule of 3. There's tons of songs that break this rule, so this isn't a hard line, but this is a great guideline to follow most of the time. The rule of 3 basically means that our brains love repetitiveness, but to a certain point. We really like to hear things twice and maybe 3 times, but after 3 times, things start to sound super repetitive. But just once, and it's kind of difficult to follow. A great way to do this is to write a melody and then play the melody exactly the same way again. And then on the 3rd time, break it up just a little bit. Add a different note to the end or have it resolve in a different way, and it'll really push your music to the next level. Level 2, layering, or what I like to call production layers. Once you have a killer sounding song or at least a direction to follow, then you need to flesh it out. Here's a few tips to producing great sounding tracks. First, layering is key. So listen to this track here. It's sounding pretty basic, so let's add a guitar layer. It's starting to sound a bit more like a professional sounding track, but let's add even more guitar layers. So in that case, it was actually just an octave higher on the guitars. And I double tracked them and had one pan hard to the left and one pan hard to the right. It's sounding better, but I still want more. And once again, another layer, this time with some melody to it. Notice how each layer is supporting the other one, and they're not fighting with one another. The layers are simple, but yet they're very effective at making it sound better. Now I want to add one more layer. So now let's play the song again with no guitar layers and then bring them all back in. And that was just the guitar layers. You can do this with synths, you can do this with percussion, you can do this with tons of things. Just make sure that the layers you add actually have a purpose. You have an intention for adding them. Don't just throw a bunch of tracks together thinking that it's just gonna automatically sound better. They all need to support each other, making sure that you're actually writing great parts, which is why you can't skip level 1 to get to level 2. Another tip is to focus on arrangement. A lot of people like to copy verse 1 into verse 2 and make no changes whatsoever. That gets extremely boring. Remember, we like repetitiveness, but we like things to change up a little bit. You can use the same chords and the same progression and even some of the same patterns inside of verse 1 into verse 2, but take verse 2 and do something different with it. Add just a little bit of taste and flair to it. This is what verse 1 sounds like. And this is what verse 2 sounds like. Not a massive difference, but definitely something to catch the listener's ear. We always want to keep them interested. And now level 3, ear candy. This is the next level of music production that a lot of people skip. And to be honest, it's hard to notice until it's gone. Ear candy is exactly what it sounds like. It's like candy for your ears. The second or third or fourth time you listen to the song, you start to pick these little things out that you didn't notice before. That's ear candy. So let me show you how I've used ear candy in this track, and then I'll show you how you can make it for yourself. So listen to this section of the track. Now I'm going to turn off the ear candy that I have in here and see if you notice the difference. Now I'll turn it back on. Did you notice the difference? You probably heard some stereo imaging going on and some little percussive hits. The first thing I did was added a guitar layer, but I wanted to make it even better and even wider. So I added 2 extra guitar layers that sound more like percussive hits and less like actual notes. Notice how you can hear a lot of the pick against those strings. That's exactly what I was looking for. Now the second thing I added was a shaker. And then with the acoustic guitar. And then in the context of the track. Already giving this track a way more professional feel. Now notice how some of the ear candy was actually layers on top of things I already had, which is why you couldn't skip step 2 to get to step 3. Now here's some tricks to adding great sounding ear candy. First, make them percussive. Not all ear candy has to be percussive, but having these one-off hits and making things sound more percussive, like that acoustic guitar in that example where you're hearing that pick against the strings, and it helps to kind of cut through the mix, especially when it's super dense, and giving your ears something to grab a hold of. And step 2 is to actually make sounds yourself. Instead of dragging them in from Splice or using different drum machines, grab a microphone and start recording things all around the house. For example, the shaker that you heard was actually this shaker right here, which is actually a toy my son uses, and he shakes all the time. He makes it sound way better than I do though. I've taken pens and hit against my desk or even against glass mugs. Any real life sound like that is called foley, and adding foley to your ear candy is just a killer trick. Now there's a big problem. Producing a killer track is just one part of the entire process. If you have a bad mix, it's not gonna matter how well your production is because they can't hear it. Well, I've mixed hundreds of songs, and there are 5 things that seem to be true every time I mix a song. If you want to know more of what I'm talking about, you can just watch this video right here. In that video, I break down exactly what those 5 things are and how you can replicate it in your next mix. Can't wait to see you there. Now, as always, go create.